There you go.
There we go.
And you'll note that you're automatically being recorded, so this will be on demand in a second. I'm going to withdraw now and wish you well. Thanks very much, Dominic. I mean, Nick.
Okay, there we are. Yeah, we're good.
And you can see yourself now. Okay, do you want to see yourself or not?
Not particularly. I'd rather see chat. Great, brilliant. Hello, everybody. This is Nick here. I'm about to start a session on a practical session about really trying to use motivating resources and video in languages teaching. So I'm just waiting for people to join. I'm expecting 100 plus, and we'll just see what happens. Oh, good. A couple of things you could usefully do to help me, and excuse me if I keep squinting off to the left there, that's because where the screen is. First one is, could you tell me if you are primary teachers or secondary teachers, and or both? So just put P or S or P and S in the chat. That'll give me some idea. And the second one is, kind of fairly honestly, where would you describe your ability range of pupils? So would you say they're academic? So if we roughly said grade 7 at GCSE, or less academic, so if we said 3, 4 borderline at so you know the grading borderline, that'll be really helpful. That'll just give me some idea. So excuse me if I dive to chat and just have a look. Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's really weird about what our ability to judge what is ability, and whether we think our kids are able or less able. Perhaps motivated might be a sort of better way of going it. So look, it's 11:33. I'm going to give it one more minute, and then I'm going to leap into the general presentation. If you can get 3 cups and 3 bits of tissue or 3 bits of anything, that's really okay. If it's plastic cups, that's also fine. If you're going to use glasses, the sort of thing you're going to be doing is putting it down upside down on a table. So you really want to make sure that, you know, this is not your best glassware, or that maybe you've got some sort of jumper or glass on it. You can do it, but honestly, anything like that is good. I have also structured the talk so that if you're not physically doing it, then you can either watch the recording, and I hope there'll be enough content about language for to make that sense. So 11:34, I'm going to kick off. So my name is Nick Mair, and I'm a secondary French and Spanish teacher with some really bad Chinese. I also teach, though, year 5 and occasionally year 6 in primary. So this thing is really based at the moment for year 5 through to weekish year 10. But I think the methodology is good for all abilities. And I'll give you an example about how some of these activities could actually be used with A-level pupils. But really, if you're going to do that, that's probably a bit of end of term fun. Is that a right word to say for anybody who's doing A-level? But anyway, that's the kind of idea. So my background is I've been teaching for a number of years, and I've taught in academic schools and much less academic schools. And this way of teaching came through really the idea that for kids to engage, the resources have to be motivating. So it's got to be something they want to do. But that's no good unless I, as a language teacher, can make them do the bits of language. And I really mean kind of structures that are going to help me. So basically, I'll give them something they are likely to like. But if it it's not working for me linguistically. It's an entire waste of time. So when I do these kind of demonstrations, one thing to look out for is what's the linguistic content behind it? And always remember that you can tweak that, you can change it. And that's a very important idea. So absolute idea then, kids have got to buy in on board. And secondly, it's got to do what you want linguistically. And really in terms of discipline, I should say that at a fairly challenging school I taught at, the absenteeism rate was 15%. Okay, so there's some great language teaching in the rest of the school. So it's not a problem with the delivery. It's just that kids didn't value, neither did their parents, the importance or the advantages of language teaching. So with 15% absenteeism, the question at the end of the lesson is, what are we doing next week? And if you don't tell them something good, they just don't turn up. But I would also say this is quite good for more academic kids who can see where it's going, who like that bit. So why did all of that come out apart from just attending? Well, there's a real problem we have in the GCSE oral, and that is kids look like they're doing quite well, they've got it all together, but in the stress of the oral exam for real for marks, they slightly lose it. So, excuse me, in the UK GCSE exam, if you think the absolute big thing they've got to get a grade 4 or better is past, present, future. And what I would notice is that people who should end up with a reasonable grade were just getting the entire tense frame wrong. So they'd come up with yesterday, I will go. And of course that kills it in the mark scheme. So really I had two problems. One is pupil confidence in the oral. And the second one is real mastery of tenses. What often happens is we teach the passé composé, for example, and you do it and you give them an exercise, they do it all really well. You move on to another tense, but they can't actually string it together in a real world situation. What are you going to do tomorrow? What did you do yesterday? And that's when they lose it. So here we go. This is a halfway activity that you can do. And this is just like a good lesson starter. Again, listen to the language. So I'm going to stand up here, and all you need for this is, do you want to move it back there? Great. All you need for this is a sheet of paper and some sellotape. What you're going to do is you're going to roll it into a tube, yeah, about that. You don't want it too thin or too thick. That's about as wide as you want it. And I'm just going to tap that on the table and get a bit of sellotape and put it in the middle. And I'm going to use a bit on the top and on the bottom. And again, the sellotape isn't really producing any reinforcement. There we go. We've got it there. Let me just move these things out of the way. So it would go something like this. Bonjour, je m'appelle Nick. Je suis pas étudiant français, je suis ingénieur français. Je vais présenter la construction d'une tour de livres. Je place le papier. Right. Je vais placer un livre. Je place un livre. Oh, maybe I'll use this one here, which is you need to have the edge fairly. This is ironically is a really old copy of Candide, which has a certain irony aspect. So here we are. What I'm going to elicit is je place and je vais placer. Oh, sorry, je place and j'ai placé. So je place un livre. J'ai placé 2 livres. Je place un livre. J'ai placé 3 livres. Je place un livre. J'ai placé 3 livres. Je place un livre. J'ai placé 4 livres. And you can see where this is going. But what I'm really doing is I'm doing it and I have done it. And that actually, you can go je vais placer, but that's a bit of overkill. If you're doing this in Spanish, it's quite good to go with el primer libro, el segundo libro, el tercer libro, because these are going to apocopate. So I'm just going to keep going to the moment you want to see, which is going to be kind of meltdown. One pupil managed to get 64 books, but 30 is probably pretty good. I'm just going to keep going in twos here. Yeah, but you get the idea. And I can supplement it with things that can make it more difficult, easier. Le papier, c'est solide quand c'est enroulé. And again, it's pretty much cognate based. So this is another 3 going on. There we go. Another 3 going on here, just speeding it up. Oh, could end in tears. I think this is going to go. Yeah, I think it, yeah, there we go. Right. So that's going to be collapse. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, that's 16 books. So really the nature of that activity is that you've got something that kids are going to perform. Now, the way of doing this is to do it in the week before half term or the week before the end of term. That way they think it's fun. Actually, it's quite difficult because what they're going to do is they're going to present something and speak French at the same time. So that's quite a cognitive challenge. If you want to do that, they can record it on phones. I find using Flipgrid is really good. So you can present something about paper. You could also build it up to be the history of paper. You present the thing, you test them on the language, and then for home learning, they go and they record themselves on Flipgrid or on the mobiles, and they just get the biggest amount of stack of books. So you decide the content that ends up in that. So if you want, I use, normally I say, je suis pas étudiant, because I want a negative, and I want the idea that's not, I am not a student. Yeah, so professions without the indefinite article is quite good. And really, frankly, I'm happy enough to it. Most kids will want to have a 2 goes. So however many times they repeat the stuff, they're probably going to have it 2 goes because they want to build the biggest tower. So at least that's something. You get the science kids on board because they're genuinely intrigued. They'll probably actually do the best. And that's not your normal clientele. So moving on to the next trick, and this is the 3 cups and 3 balls. This is really easy. All you need is any 3 paper cups and 3 bits of tissue. So if you just move the camera back, okay, great. So straight away, what kids are going to do is they're going to record this and they are going to present it. Now, why is that useful? Well, for 2 reasons. Firstly, hopefully they enjoy it, but they're going to have to internalize it to actually be able to present it on screen. They're probably going to have to do multiple takes because they're going to fluff it. I give them the English in front of them and they can actually then just record it. And when I go through this, listen to the linguistic content. So there's going to be c'est, il y a, a negative, a past, present, future, facts and opinions. And again, if you go through your kind of GCSE mark tick list, that's going to be there. I'll give you the kind of year 6, 7, 8, weaker 9, 10 version, but you can actually make it really, really complicated. So here we go. Bonjour, je m'appelle Nick. Je vais présenter une illusion. C'est pas compliqué. Il y a 3 tasses. Il y a 3 papiers. Je place les tasses. Je vais placer le papier sur la tasse. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Je tape. That's the end of the unit. That may be as much as some pupils can do confidently in front of the screen. But I'll keep continuing. Je place les tasses. Je vais placer. Je place. J'ai placé. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Je tape. Je place les tasses. Je vais placer. Je place. Je place, j'ai placé. And I'll load that up. Je tape. And all 3 bits are underneath. Right, straight away, that's the idea. Now, if the kid can perform that at a reasonable speed, then they're almost certainly going to be fine for the GCSE oral, because they're doing something cognitively that's a real challenge. The stress levels to be able to pat your tummy, rub your head, and to go through all of this trick at the same time is really quite complicated. So they're used to stressful real-time delivery, which is exactly what you want in the oral. Remember what I said about the tenses? Je vais placer, je place, j'ai placé, and you can change that within it. In Spanish, for example, you might want to go with gustar as constructions that you want to use, but then often we get we get things like verbs like poner, he puesto, or perhaps puse, but he puesto is good. I'm getting some chat here, so I'll just, could you just grab your, please? I'll tell you the secret, and the secret is you need to rip out 4 balls of paper. There is a ball of paper extra that goes in the middle cup. So 1 cup, ball of cup, piece of paper there. If you could set that up, I'm just going to scan through some stuff here. Okay, so here we go. Right, I'll actually show you the trick, and to make it a bit easier, I'm going to use these transparent cups. So basically there are 3 cups. In the middle cup is the thing. I'm going to pop them all there. So when you say, part of this is always une illusion, il y a 3 tasses, il y a 3 papiers. Deep in the person's brain is the idea 3. Yeah, if they say they're 4 but one's hidden, obviously the whole thing goes pretty wrong. So je vais placer, and we'll talk about, actually put them out if you have a go. So here, right, that already is what's happened. Yeah, so they don't know it, but there's one under here and there. So you say je vais placer le papier, oh sorry, je vais placer le papier, je place le papier, j'ai placé le papier. And by tapping it, they think it's gone magically through to here. But no, yeah, quantum physics, fine. It's not going to work at a tabletop level here. So same sort of thing. We've got 1 in the middle here. We've now got 2 underneath, except they think there's 1. Je vais placer, je place, j'ai placé. Yeah, je tape, nothing happens. Still 1 in the middle, but there's 2 down here magically. So same thing, and you can guess what's going to happen. Yeah, we've got all 3 there. I'll put that on the top. And so there's 3 pieces of paper. If they said, where's the 4th piece of paper? Well, that's where it is. But you have programmed them to, as a con say, 3 papiers, 3 or 3 papelitos, yeah, 3 tasses, 3 papiers. Now, if you just go through the linguistic content of that, what you can see is that you've got c'est, you've got the negative, you've got il y a. And that's pretty much what I taught my year 5 this year in the first half of the first term. So il y a pas, and I'm not a big fan of ne in the early stages. C'est, je vais, je something there. And at least if you in class, they start off every class by going just a physical response. Everybody stands up. If I go demain, they go demain, hier, main droite, main gauche, demain. Yeah, main sur la table, they do that as loudly as they can. You've got it. So if you could set yourself up with this, at the very beginning of the chat, I've put the paper resources. There are 3 versions of Chinese, depending if you want pinyin or characters or whatever, a Spanish version and a French version. And just, if you look at that, some things I've botched it so that I get the language I want in there. So you might wonder about en la mesa or sobre la mesa. And I find sobre is quite useful because when they come to sobrevivir, eventually, yeah, that's a kind of useful thing to have. So if you could get 3 pieces of paper, put it on the table, I'm going to walk you through it. And oh, I've just been told there's some chat here. I better just go. Here we go. Okay, okay, so I'm being told that not all of you can see the right, Alex, could you, if you go to the chat and just paste in what's there already, you should get a link to a Google Drive. Brilliant. Okay, so thank you. And again, I'll be indicated if I'm, okay. So we've got this situation, it's in the middle cup. Right, first thing is, you don't take them off the top, because then somebody's going to see inside that there's an extra ball. So you pull them off the bottom, and there's something about magic that if you're going like this, then it's obviously a trick and it's stress and there's something not natural. So you need to just kind of work out what a relaxed body position looks like. Yeah, otherwise you get all stressed and you get really clunky, and then people. So it's got to be really pretty boring. The more normal your cups, the better it is. If you have cups that look like they're specialist and it wasn't just a paper napkin, it means you've practiced too much in your bedroom, you're a sad bloke, and you need to get out more. So really, the first one is, and the first thing where people smell a rat is the speed at which I put down the cups. And it needs to go clunk, clunk, clunk. Okay, watch this. Oh yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Oh no, there. Right, if you do that kind of stuff, then people know that the middle one, because you put it down fast, was a trick. So the rhythm needs to be boom, boom, boom. Here we go. So 1, 2, 3, and it's always that thing of 3. Je vais placer, je place, j'ai placé. Put the other ones on top, tap, and it's there. And once you can do that, it's just the same thing 3 times. So the only place you can go wrong is by trying to take them off the top. Yeah, you need to take them off the bottom in a relaxed way. Yeah, so slanting it there, 1, 2, 3. And if you do that, that's pretty much it. It worries people, and the simpler it looks, the better it is. So you put it on the top there, tap. Yeah, and again, listen to the rhythm. That's it. Last one on top. There, click, and we've got all 3 there. So I'm going to give you about a minute to try that for yourselves. I'm just going to nip through and look at the chat, and if you have a question and I haven't either covered it now, perhaps if you put it in the chat now with Q in front of it, just Q for question, ask me what the question is, and that way there'll be bits that you want to know that, because I'm used to doing it, I haven't covered. So really, remember, in the middle one, boom, boom, boom. Those are the things that make users think it's okay. So I'm just going to nip to the chat and have a look. Okay, so a couple of things I picked up on, and forgive me if I haven't seen it, shove your question down again, putting Q in front of it. One thing to say is I would tend to announce this at the beginning of a scheme of work. So we work in half terms. I would go at the beginning of the thing, right, you're going to learn this, this, this in these lessons, and we'll kick off, do the normal teaching. At the end of it, I'm going to get you to do this magic trick. So they go, wow, that's it. And the magic trick is actually based on what we're going to learn this term. So you need to concentrate, because you won't be able to do the magic trick, or it'll be much easier if you don't have to learn it at the end. But it's really your acid test. Can they internalize what you've taught? So I would announce it at the beginning, do the trick at the beginning, teach the content of it, and then it's week before half term, that's fine. And you know, it's not like every lesson is regimented, but if they know it's in the pipeline, you get a lot of brownie points on the way. Whereas if you suddenly do it, it's half term, here's a trick, it's based on all the stuff you learned. They need to know that before. The second thing is, it works if you want to do this, and I'm not suggesting you do, on the whole I don't, but the language can be really, really complicated. So if you do it with a paper tower, you could go de peur que la tour ne s'effondre. Wow. You know, or une fois le livre placé, j'ai décidé d'en rajouter un autre. So you can have some quite posh constructions that they're going to want to use in the oral. But the point about them having to do it is they know they've internalized because they had to present it in real time. And that's very different often for what we do. So again, I've pitched that at a level, you know, frankly, it works best with kids who are not, you know, kind of middle lower sets, who may need this. If you've got a great group of linguists, they'll probably still enjoy it, and it's a good test. It's also very good because when people say, what are you doing the last week? You can actually say, I'm doing an assessment. Yeah, hand on heart, you can say it's actually basically an assessment, and we're doing it. Right, so I'm just going to go back to any questions that are in here. Okay, I think it works best in modern languages, one of the questions. You can do it with anything. So if you're in a full tutor period and you just need something to do, well, you know, that might be an interesting thing. You may also be doing it in a week when there's something to do with recycling stuff. It's a good one to do if your school has a CIOL policy and you have a STEM week. So STEM week, they then say, well, what are you doing in modern languages to support it? Well, you can say doing the paper tower, and that produces really good short video footage for STEM week. So kids produce something that's probably 30 seconds in a foreign language. Good top tip, I mean, playing the system, but why not put it into your anything that comes with schemes of work for inspection? What have you done that's cross-curricular? How have you liaised with other subjects? What have you done to help kinesthetic learners, if people still believe that as a concept? I personally think that the total physical response thing for weaker kids does really help memory. If they're doing it and saying it, for weaker kids, I think that's a really strong memory thing. The bright ones will just learn it, and that's fine. So let me scan back to here, and then I'm going to go back and just show you the thing again and get you to do it with me on screen. So, right, okay. Somebody's saying, could you possibly do, well, yeah, here we go, right. Okay, so I'll do it once then with it. Donc, bonjour, je m'appelle Nick. Je vais présenter une illusion. C'est pas compliqué, c'est amusant. Il y a 3 tasses, il y a 3 papiers. Je place les tasses. Je vais placer le papier. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Je tape. We can go, et voilà. So here we are. Je place les tasses. Je vais placer le papier. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je tape. Je place les tasses. Je vais placer. Je place. J'ai placé. Je tape. All 3. Okay, so here we go. In slowed down, you do it with me. And you might want to repeat after me. 我的名字是 Nick， 我准备表扬一个魔术，魔术不是很复杂，而且很有趣。这里有3个杯子，这里有3张纸。I think that's right. Yeah, 我放3个杯子, etc. You got the idea. Apologies to anybody who teaches Chinese. It's quite useful for them because, wow, cognitively, to learn that is difficult. I don't think the grammar's particularly difficult, though you've got a wo bang sang ge zhang zhi fang, etc. So here we go. Right, do it with me. Remember, you're going to have that extra piece of paper in the middle. Bonjour, je m'appelle. You do it. Je vais présenter une illusion. Sorry, I'm thinking of Spanish. Un truco de magia. Yeah. Je vais présenter une illusion. Over to you. Il y a 3 tasses. Il y a 3 papiers. Je place les tasses. Past, present, future coming up. Je vais placer le papier. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Et voilà. Okay, let's try it again. Same sort of speed, then the last time we'll do it quickly. Yeah, je place les tasses. Je vais placer le papier. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Je tape. Here we go, a bit faster. Can you keep up? Je place les tasses. Interesting. Sometimes you have to just get a bit of a botch. If you have this kind of size cup, it works really well. I would take a normal table napkin and quarter it, and that will give you 4 equal bits, 3 for the thing and then 1 for the other. Yeah. Je vais placer le papier. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Je tape. That's it. Okay, so now we go kind of for real. I hope you're coping. It does take practice. If you get really stymied, there'll be one kid in the class who either wants to research this or who can do it already. And that's a really good person. You record and all the kids record their version. Then the kid who can do it really well records the explanation in English. And that goes out on the weekly email to parents, whatever. And notice, in terms of safeguarding, you can either have the hands or you can have the face and the hands, depending on how confident the kid is and what your school policy is. So here we go for real. I'll give you the same amount of time that I do it. Bonjour, je m'appelle Nick. Je vais présenter une illusion. C'est pas compliqué. C'est amusant. Je place les tasses. Je vais placer le papier. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Je tape. Here we go. So, okay. So, je place les tasses. You do it. Je vais placer le papier. You do it. Je place le papier. J'ai placé le papier. Je place la tasse sur les tasses. Je tape. Okay, there we are. We've got it. I'll just have a go. I'll just read if there's any chat there. One thing I can put in the notes at the end is I did I think a 50-minute talk on creativity in language learning. And that's really the extension of all these sorts of ideas. So again, this may not be your thing and you really need, there's no point doing it if the kids don't buy into it. Yeah, you had a great time, they learned nothing, wasted time. So you've got to decide what works for them. But I did a project about solar ovens. So solar ovens are effectively an estate agent sign covered in aluminium on which you can boil water, cook pasta. So I could give you some of the intro there. Problème. 2 millions de personnes mortes. Pourquoi? Respirer la fumée des cuisines. La solution? Les cuisines solaires. And that would be with a PowerPoint background in the background. So I've done that as a project. Those resources, either ping me an email or I can show you where they are. They also come with a set of teacher's notes, if that helps, all free incidentally. All of this is not for profit, and I don't expect anybody else to do it for profit. Another one is the paper tower. So the paper tower actually looks at, yeah, compétition de construction. Yeah. On va construire une tour. Une tour énorme gagne. Une compétition, il y a 30 minutes. Regarde, les cylindres, c'est solide. Les triangles, c'est solide. Les rectangles, c'est pas solide. So you're going through, it's really cognate rich. Again, I usually put the key text on the PowerPoint behind me. You get them to do this, but what they then have to do is they put themselves into teams, they come to you, and you get the language you want to give them an individual sheet of paper. So it might be, est-ce que je peux avoir une feuille de papier? Not really very authentic French, but est-ce que, making a question, je peux, modal auxiliary, avoir, the idea it's an infinitive, une feuille, because it's like the English word foliage, yeah, and that's a leaf, and that's a leaf of paper, de papier, which they know from papier mâché. They basically come and ask you each time you just sit there on the desk, feet on the table. Every time they say it right, they form up a queue. And they can also say, est-ce que je peux avoir 5 cm de scotch? So what will happen is usually the bright ones will send the weakest kids to go and get paper and sellotape. And actually, they're the ones you most want to repeat. If you said to somebody, we're going to repeat this sentence 30 times, they would just have no interest. But actually, this way, you can get them. What I usually do with more able classes, I change the construction. But I put it I've either scaffolded it or put it up on the board and that. So, je voudrais une feuille de papier, or tu dois me donner une feuille de papier. And what they do is they then build this huge paper tower. The good ones will get to 2 meters, no standing on tables, no standing on chairs, no touching a wall. And again, that's a really good one for any sort of science construction week. So that's a nice little scaffolding thing. They can then go there and they can talk through, I'm an engineer, I'm not Gustav Eiffel. The Eiffel Tower is very big, but my tower is better. You decide the language, and that's what they do it, and then you basically do it. And that works quite well with just freeze frame photography. So all you want is the presentation and then the tower as you got it. It's an absolutely standard science week activity. Often happens with marshmallows and pasta, or blue tack and pasta. Blue tack doesn't work very well because if it heats up, the whole thing falls to bits. And if you've done that one, you want to do another one, you can look at bridge construction. So instead of going vertically, you can go sideways, and that really works pretty well. I've done one on paper planes, but not normal paper planes, dart paper planes. These really slow flying things that just tumble down in the air. It's, je vais présenter la construction d'un avion. Oui, je vais dessiner, je vais couper, je vais plier, je vais voler. Yeah, je suis pas pilote anglais, je suis pilote français. You get the idea, you can see where it's all going from. But what's interesting about those is, firstly, they'll go, wow, that's quite interesting. And secondly, if you get an estate agent board, and this takes some believing and impossible to do against this wall, you can walk along with a sheet of estate agent's board, and you can get this plane to fly permanently. So some kids will get really good at it, but you can actually do it something like really good kids in a gym would do 20 minutes. And that is great TV that while they're doing, it's actually to do with wings in ground effect. There's a huge history to this. The Russians were really into it. It's one of the problems you have when you land a plane, all of which interests probably nobody, except I quite like gliders, so I know about these things. So I've done that a bit. I've done ear gongs, which is you basically hold a piece of string with a coat hanger, put your fingers in your ears, and if you biff the coat hanger, it really reverberates through your entire skull, but nobody else can hear it. So there's a large amount of projects of that ilk, all available, all online, but I'll find and paste the link to the creativity talk, because some of those are mentioned. There's also a very brief description of the paper tower and things, but there's some other ones, a lot of the physical response stuff. Okay, I'm just going to go back and excuse me whilst I read some of the questions here. Okay, so I'll just, could you type in my mairn@dulwich.org.uk? So my email, and it's just going to be typed in, is mairn@dulwich.org.uk. And if you put that in, and if for some reason the session stops, then I'll be able to. So, okay, we've got pretty much 4 minutes there. I think I've told you pretty much everything that people there. The paper planes, just a demo of it, are in the are in the creativity talk. But I've got all of the teachers' notes and scaffolded activities. So before the pupils get the cups, they've got to show you that they can go through the language. As soon as they can go through the language, you give them the cups, and you might want to have 2 versions, a simplified version. It depends on how much you need to scaffold activities and how much you need to differentiate. But for the brighter ones, you can have it. For the really bright ones, you can get them to do the way it's done in French, and they really enjoy that. And you could scaffold that, or you could get them to do the same. So it's always generating a piece of French. Let me just see. The thing about the paper play is somebody's putting down sycamore, but in my book that doesn't really work, because you have to go up to a building and you have to drop it off. And if you just make the paper ones, it's really much less impressive than the paper plane in the creativity video. In the creativity video, to help people, I put down the timings of each bit, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. You know, God forbid you've got better things to do on a Sunday. So you could just go there, scan down, and the timings, I tell you that, are about 20 seconds wrong. And if you want the paper planes one, that's called tumble wings. Yeah, tumble wings there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Look, frankly, 12 minutes past 12. Thank you very much. Thank you for some of the comments, which I'll now go back and read the entirety. Key thing is, though, look, find something that you think they're going to enjoy, but make sure it works for the language. And this often works quite well in inspection. Last time we were inspected, I did the paper plane thing and went down a storm. You know, you cross-curricular, all learners engaged, physical results, muscle memory in real time. And, you know, it was, okay, don't just try this on Monday, because if you try this on Monday, look, give it a week, practice it, bore your friends, bore your kids. But actually, if you go straight out into the class, the stress on you will actually probably make you get it wrong. And that also tells you about what it's like to be in a GCSE oral. They can be all fine, but suddenly the stakes go up and there's a big audience and it matters, and it's a bit more clunky. But you know, hey, it's not a bad one for the common room, but but that's it. Okay, so look, I'm pretty much going to sign off here. I think what we could do there is, I think I can, if you don't mind an empty chair, I'll come round to the front of the computer, and I should be able to unmute you, so you can actually. I'm happy to stay on for as long as you like, in terms of just answering in voice. So I suppose we ought to just leave it with 3 cups, 3 balls, and a piece of paper. And I'll come around here and I'll see if I can unmute you, which I think is going to be possible. I may have to. Yeah, I'm not. So I'm not quite sure how I can allow you to become a presenter. Right. Okay. I'm in front of my keyboard, so I can actually type into any questions there. But hey, look, go for it. And my apologies to any Chinese teachers out there. But you know, I found learning Chinese there. I don't think I can unmute you. I think you're right. I know Helen did it on the session yesterday. Look, it's 15:15. I'm done. Thank you very much. Good luck. I hope the teaching goes well on Monday.